over here we've got a plastic model representing two cerebral hemispheres, and if we pick it up, the mold that it is located in and also represents our cranial fossa. So we can see that they've got the different tips. So the first would be the anterior cranial fossa, and this is where the frontal lobes are housed. Deeper is where we have our middle cranial fossa, and this is where our temporal lobes will be located approximately. Let me just give you an image of how it fits in for reference. So this is the middle aspect of the cerebral hemisphere, and then the deepest one would then be the posterior cranial fossa, and that is to house the cerebellum and also the brainstem. Taking a look at the blood vessels. So we've covered some of the blood vessels already, and we know that for the cerebrum itself, the blood supply is going to come from the external carotid artery. So around the circle of Willis, we're going to have a branch running along the medial or the longitudinal fissure that is going to supply medial aspects as well as anterior aspects of the frontal lobe of the cerebrum. Then for the middle cerebral artery, that one is going to run along this fissure called the lateral fissure, and it's going to supply the majority of the cerebral hemisphere on the external surface. Then over here we've got our cerebellum, and we know that the blood supply to the cerebellum is going to come from our vertebral arteries. So along this side we're going to have our basilar artery on the pons itself, and we're going to have three predominant arteries, one being the superior cerebellar artery. So that is going to run between the temporal lobe of the cerebrum and the cerebellum itself. Then for the anterior inferior cerebellar artery and the posterior inferior cerebellar artery, we see here that this is the posterior inferior cerebellar artery, and then we've got an anterior inferior cerebellar artery that is not so noticeable on this plastic model.